Ladies and gentlemen, please take your seats.
While the stories might be similar, it's the nuance inside the characters that make these moments all the more special, especially with films like this. And if you can hear the sound of my voice, that must mean you are in the seats with once more. As always, my name is Dave Voigt, and I am the host of this podcast where we sit down with a wide-ranging variety of industry professionals and pick their brain about not only current projects, but how they got started, influences, state of the industry, and anything else we can think of in a nice, light, conversational fashion, as it were. And if you'd like to subscribe to this podcast, and we certainly hope that you do, because, I mean, we're hoping you're listening right now, obviously, you can do that over at Apple Podcasts or Spotify Podcasts, or you can find all of our episodes archived over at our YouTube channel. You can also follow us on social media, and we'd love it if you did. You can do that over at Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram, either at In the Seats or at It's Podcast One for all sorts of updates. And finally, we would certainly love it if you followed us over at In the Seats, intheseats.ca. Pay us a visit, where our hardworking team is cracking away on movie news, reviews, all sorts of fun stuff that we can think of. They're a hardworking team. I love them to death, so go give us a click and show them some appreciation. On today's episode, we've got an interesting one. We're talking with director Fisher Stevens, and we're talking about his new movie Palmer, which is dropping on the Apple Plus streaming service this January 29th, and it's a familiar but it's a heartfelt story. It's Justin Timberlake plays Palmer. He's an ex-convict trying to sort of re-enter life in his old hometown, and he strikes up a friendship with a young boy from a troubled home, and then they form quite the unique duo. And it's one of those stories that just reminds you that, you know, as much as you can't choose your family, you can make your family, and you never know when those moments in life really come out. It's a beautiful little film. And we got to talk to Fisher about how this script sort of came across his desk, and just in terms of getting it made and getting the entire ensemble together and just sort of telling this story the right way, because, you know, sometimes you need to be able to do these things without a lot of sort of outside influence and do it on the cheap, much like he's been doing in his documentary work for the past few years. And this is the first sort of fictional feature film he's done in a while, and I will tell you right now, it is a darn good one. But I hope you enjoy our talk together, and check out the film when it hits Apple TV Plus on Friday, January 29th. But enjoy. All right. Well, I mean, first off, congratulations on the film. And I just want to say thank you so much for the time today. I really appreciate this.
No problem. Thank you for writing about it. Film obviously means a lot to all of.
I mean, walk me through you finding this script, because I mean, as much as it follows some very sort of familiar beats, it pivots just enough with some really strong character work to make something really special.
Yeah, it was like given to me by an agent to see more about what my tastes were as a director, not like, do you want to direct this? And I was like, as soon as he gave me the script and I read it, I was like, this is what I want to direct. And he's like, I don't know, man. There may be somebody attached. This was just a sample. I'm like, no, let's do. I know how to make this movie. I love this movie. I had a lot of connections to this kind of the film, and because I have made so many documentary films, I was looking for a feature to do that I could kind of take my documentary mindset and what I've learned into a feature to make it real, and to kind of hopefully you feel like you're watching real life. And that what that script did to me was just like jolted me and said, I feel like I know how to do this. So that's how it came about.
Well, and I mean, I love that you say that, because it really did have this energy of them being real people as opposed to acting, quote unquote. And I mean, it was one of those things where you really got connected to all the characters from minute one. And I mean, walk me through a little bit of just sort of the casting process, especially finding people like Justin and Juno, and to be a part of this, and especially finding Ryder, who was such a revelation in the film.
Thanks. Well, I've been trying to make the film for a number of years. There'd been a number of actors that I kind of talked to or was thinking about. Um, and the kind of movie went into a bit of a hiatus. I was working on a documentary, and we like started it sort of from the drawing board for the lead role. I had a kid that I always had in mind. And then I was making a film with Leonardo DiCaprio, a documentary, and his manager is read the script and it also represents Justin, and had suggested Justin, and I was kind of like, wow, that I didn't even like that wasn't even in my brain at all. And then I remembered, like Social Network and the Coen brothers Inside the Llewyn Davis, like this guy has done some good work in Alpha Dog. And then I didn't know much about Justin. And then I looked up that he's from the South and like, okay. So he read the script and he was definitely intrigued. But then that was just the beginning of a long, long dance. As you showbiz, nothing happens easily. He was also on a tour for his, giant mega tour. He was just starting his tour. Anyway, after a long dance and after, going to Foxwoods in Connecticut, watching him on tour, I was like, oh, you got to do this, man. And he said yes. And by the time he said yes, and by the time we got it together, the boy that I was thinking to play Sam had like shot up and was too
Right.
old. So Justin said, the key to this movie is finding the right kid to play Sam. And I want to read with a bunch of kids. And he gave me I want to read with 6 kids at the least. And I'll give you, days. And I had 5 kids in mind. And Ryder was kind of just thrown in at the end because he was so young and he was 7. And 7-year-old kids, you get less time to shoot with on the set because of
Right.
child law. He was 7. And my son was at the time like, 5.5, and I was like 6 almost, and I'm like, 7 is so young. As soon as Justin and him got in that room together, it was like whoosh. It was incredible. It was like a explosion, and so that was it. We knew Ryder was it, and we worked extra hard on being prepared so that during a shoot day where we didn't have many hours with Ryder, that we were ready. We were super ready. So Justin and Ryder and I rehearsed quite a bit with the writer Cheryl, and we locked in pretty early and kept working on weekends. I mean, we didn't stop because it's a low budget movie. We shot the whole thing in 25 days, so we knew we had to really like once the cameras were rolling, once we had the big crew in, we had to have it together. And fortunately, we cast the right people.
I mean, I'm always amazed at that because I mean, so much goes into casting and so much is in sort of has to lean on the casting process as well, especially when you have to sort of hit the ground running on a shoot like this.
Yeah, and then we had like the rest of the cast. The grandma was a difficult role to cast. I mean, June Squibb was someone we thought of, but she's 90 years old, and so I had a 90-year-old and a 7-year-old, and like it didn't matter. They were just all in. June is like could probably outrun me in a race. And Juno was actually Justin's suggestion, Justin and his manager Rick, because they had done a Woody Allen movie together years before, and I knew Juno's work, but I I was looking more into American actors, but she's so good you can't tell where she's from, and she just hit it out of the park. So, and then the rest of the cast is mostly local people because we wanted it to keep it very real and very local. So the three bad, the 3 dudes were all from the South. I mean, they're all first rate actors, but they all lived in the South, um, and worked in the South mostly. And yeah, so we just were very lucky. The woman who I love, Winnie, who plays Cole's wife, Lucille, she lives in Atlanta. She's incredible. It's like we became kind of a theater troupe. We were like this little theater company.
That's
Um,
awesome.
yeah, it was really it was a great experience.
Now, I mean, I won't make the old joke about actors who want to direct, but I'm kind of curious from your perspective, what is it about sort of the directing process that really drew you in?
I started acting very young, and I got frustrated in my kind of late 20s, that early, because I liked acting a lot, but I also wanted to work with people that I wanted to work with as opposed to be just randomly thrown onto a set, randomly thrown into a play. And I realized if I could create if I produce, maybe I can start working with people I want to work with. So it really started at a theater company called Naked Angels back in New York City in the 80s, where I started producing and directing little plays with an incredible group of actors. And then I just kind of like thought, oh, I'd like to translate this into film, and started getting behind the camera a little bit in film. And you just want more control. And as an actor, you often don't have a lot of control. And you don't get to control who you work with, you know? So as a director, I love acting, but I love directing too. And I also like painting the whole picture as opposed to being like a character in the painting.
Right.
I like to do the big painting. So, but it's hard work, man. I won't lie to you. I mean, acting is tricky, but directing is like, whoo, nonstop. You know, everybody's asking you questions all day, and it's just, it's fun to have that responsibility, but you also have to really like be ready for it because it's a lot of work. But I
Well, I
love.
mean, I gotta say, because I think Stand Up Guys is one of those movies that never got the love it deserved. And I mean, I hope now with people seeing Palmer, they can look back on some of your other work. And I'm kind of curious because you haven't hesitated to jump from documentary to narrative and sort of back and forth. Is there a preference, or is it just a question of the right material at the right time?
Yeah, it's the right material at the right time. I think Stand Up Guys was also very different in that it really, I was the director, but I didn't have that full control because I had a very strong producer,
Right.
very strong. The money people had a lot to say, and because I hadn't really done much behind the camera before, I was, you know, it wasn't I couldn't hire my own people necessarily. I mean, I got the actors I wanted. Obviously, I got to work with the greatest actors that ever lived, but I can say it wasn't my full kind of vision
Right.
as,
Okay.
as opposed, and it did suffer. You know, yeah, it didn't do well. It wasn't exactly the movie that I had in mind when I set out to make it, though I still like it. This one was like all on me, right? So I wanted to find my next movie where I could kind of be in control and kind of, you know, Palmer was a lot smaller budget than Stand Up Guys. We shot it in less days, but it's all on me. So if it stinks, it's all on me. And I hired my people, and we got to, you know, the producers gave me a lot of leeway, and the financiers, they were wonderful in that sense. So that's why I didn't work for a while. I wanted to find something that really I could control and make from my heart. And you know, if Stand Up Guys was a big hit, I'm sure I would have been thrown a lot more stuff. And to be honest, it didn't do very well at the box office. And you know, people were like, okay, here, you want to act in this, or you know, obviously, and the documentaries kept coming to me. Like I did a bunch between. I've done like
Yeah.
5 documentaries between Stand Up Guys, and I love making docs. I love real life. So when I read Palmer, this was a moment I could kind of put it all together. Um, and it was a joy. But I like going back and forth.
Well, you did put it all together with Palmer. I mean, it's a fantastic piece of work, and I think it's going to get a great audience on Apple Plus. And just congratulations again on the film, and thanks for the time today, man.
Thank you for writing about it, David. Nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you.
Take care.
And don't forget to visit our friends over at Bay Street Video for all your DVD, Blu-ray rental, or purchasing needs this summer, as they are still open for curbside and some mailing delivery as well. Over at 1172 Bay Street, Toronto, Ontario, Canada, you can give them a call at 416-964-9088. That's 416-964-9088. Or send them an email at baystreetvideoto@gmail.com for any of your DVD and Blu-ray needs.